On the line with us, our buddy Dean Obeidallah, the host of the Dean Obeidallah Show, weekdays 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on Sirius XM Progress Channel 127. A columnist for CNN and MSNBC, contributor to The New Republic. His Substack is The Dean's Report, or deanobeidallah.substack.com. And Dean Obeidallah also on Twitter, or X, or whatever you want to call it. Dean, welcome back to the program.
Thanks, Tom, and thanks for being on my show last night. I appreciate it.
It was great fun. It always is. So I'm curious your thoughts on last night and where this is going. I'm increasingly thinking that given the strong showing that Nikki Haley had last night in New Hampshire, and the substantial percentage, about a third of the Republicans who voted saying that they would never vote for Donald Trump, that if Trump is the nominee, we're looking at a 1964 Barry Goldwater scenario in November. What say you?
Well, I wish we could see that. I think we live in such a hyper-polarized world that it's hard to see that kind of landslide, or like 84 Reagan's landslide over Mondale, where Mondale only won one state. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be a lot of work, but I think we're well positioned to win this race. And polls of Biden versus Trump are really meaningless right now. It is Trump versus democracy. It's Trump versus reproductive freedom. It's Trump versus academic freedom. Those are the issues we're really dealing with right now. So, yeah, last night, look, Donald Trump was polling on average 22 points ahead of Nikki Haley. He ends up winning by 11. Independent voters came out. They voted in big numbers for Nikki Haley because they were disgusted by Donald Trump. That's what exit polling noted. I just want to point out, Trump lied that Democrats could vote yesterday. That's not true. You had to switch your party allegiance in October. So you had to either be a Republican or undeclared. If you were a Democrat going, I'm going to go vote today for Nikki Haley to help her or hurt Trump, you couldn't do that. You had to do that back in October to switch to undeclared, and then you could vote it yesterday. So again, more lies by Donald Trump. But I think it's great, exactly what you're saying. Iowa, we saw a similar thing. A lot of Haley's people who voted for her said they're going to vote for Joe Biden. Donald Trump is going to get weighed down even more. And if he's convicted of felonies between now and November, that's what I hope, and we hope we will see. It has a huge impact. I think we can hold the Senate, and we can win the House back too. Yeah.
Over at the Dean's Report, which I strongly recommend people, go to Substack.com and just plug in Dean's Report, and Dean Obeidallah's Substack newsletter will pop right up. And it's free. It comes right into your email box, every day or three. And it's brilliant. You had a piece titled, Trump's Mental Decline is Now a National Security Threat. Do you think any Republicans actually care?
I don't think MAGA cares. They don't care if he's convicted of a crime.
Right.
Tom, I keep saying this to people, and I wish the media would do it. I've done it to some listeners. You're not going to convince MAGA that Trump didn't attempt a coup or incite the January 6th terrorist attack. What I ask them is, assuming Donald Trump attempted a coup, assuming Donald Trump incited the January 6th terrorist attack, would you still support him? And I had Trump supporters said, yes, I would. That tells you all you need to know. So it doesn't matter if he's convicted of crimes. It doesn't matter if he's drooling and has no idea where he is, which actually has happened. They're still going to support him. For the rest of us, I think it's important. And Nikki Haley brought it up last night in her post-election result speech. It said, talked about what was great. She said to the crowd, Trump said, I was in charge of security on January 6th. And the crowd organically laughed, huge laugh. And Trump hates that. That's so angering to him. And she said, well, if he thinks he's cognitively stronger than me, then why won't he debate me? And I really wish the media would pick that up. I also think that, Tom, the media has to stop dismissing Trump as just lying. He is delusional. Last night he said, I won in Iowa and I won the general elections. He lost in 2016 by 5 points to Hillary and by 7 points to Biden, the general election with Biden versus Trump. He didn't win them. In his mind, he believes he did. It's not a lie. It's delusion. It's dangerous. It's part of the mental cognitive decline that is now a threat to our democratic republic. And as commander-in-chief, we can't have someone living untethered from reality who makes up their own world and then orders our military to do things based on what's in his twisted brain. And that's where we're at. It's beyond lying. He sincerely believes the lies. That makes him even more dangerous. He is truly delusional.
Yeah, I think you're right. I really do. Or he's a pathological liar. That is to say that whatever he feels at the moment is an appropriate reality, he invents as the reality. And it can literally change from moment to moment. There's no requirement for consistency for pathological liars. They're untethered. I had a caller in the last hour, a regular caller, Keno. He's been a listener to the program for years. Used to be a Republican down in Florida. And he was talking about how he's got a brother and sister, as I recall, who are both Trump humpers, who are just dedicated to Donald Trump. And he's like, how can I talk to these people? Why are they supporting Trump, and how can I address this with them? And I had some thoughts that I shared with him briefly. I'm thinking about writing about that as well. But I'd love to get your thoughts on this, Dean. I respect your opinion.
I think if you care about the people, then maybe find other things in common to talk about, like how much you all hate the Dallas Cowboys. At least that's unifying for me. Bring people together in the hatred of the Cowboys. Even though they're out of it, I got to still bring them up. But I'm saying, if it's someone you don't care about, well, if those are their values and they like a white supremacist who wanted to end our democracy, then it's up to you to be friends or not. If it's someone you care about and love and you want to continue a relationship, you're not going to change their mind. We're too far into this, Tom. It's not 2015. It's 2024. They've seen everything Trump did and they had no problem with it. What can you or I say? So I honestly think try to find common ground on other issues so you can continue a relationship. You're not going to change their mind on Trump. Not going to happen. I tried. I'm an adult. I realize it. Just not going to happen.
My sense of it, Dean, is that a significant percentage of these folks who are following Trump are, the classic Robert Altmaier, John Dean, authoritarian followers. They're people who grew up with enough insecurity in their lives that they really just want somebody to take care of them. They want Big Daddy. They want somebody to tell them everything's going to be fine. These are the people that when the climate change deniers come along and say, oh, don't worry, it's just natural variability, they go, oh, okay, I'll believe that because that makes me feel better, right? They're vulnerable to these kinds of lies because they're basically frightened, and the lies, the purpose of the lies is to say, don't be afraid, I'll take care of you. Don't be afraid, everything's under control. And I'm wondering if the way to approach a friend or relative that you care about who is supporting Trump would be to go right to the heart of that insecurity and say, the country is actually far more stable now than it was during Trump's presidency. People are healthier, the economy is doing better. Somehow speak to that. I'm kind of grasping at straws here. But
okay, maybe hug them and tell them everything's going to be okay. And we will take care of you.
Well, I've had, I don't know if you've had the same experience, but I've got a bunch of Republicans or former Republicans who listen to this program, who call in regularly, who started out calling me up trying to debate with me. And then eventually came around and said, you're starting to make some sense here. And principally what I say is, don't worry, we've got this. I mean, it's... Right. Anyhow, I interrupted you, Dean. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, look, a light bulb sometimes goes off, but just like a character in a movie, they want to have to change. Like if you don't want to change, if there's nothing I can say to change your mind. Right. If you have questions about it, you're just regurgitating what others have told you. And then you hear another side and you go, I haven't heard that before. Maybe you can have a discussion about it. But if it's a loved one, if you could find out really what is their motivating factor, and you mentioned their desire to have someone, a father figure, take care of them, well, maybe you could address that. It's more of an emotional issue than a policy issue. There's no policy debate. You talk to Trumpers are like, oh, my 401k misses Donald Trump. Well, the stock market has hit breaking new records. When Trump left, the Dow was at 30,000, like 38,500 now. If your 401k is down, don't blame Biden, blame your stockbroker. But that's not going to move them. That's the reality of the world. Like, facts don't matter when it's this visceral reaction. Some it's fear. For some, I don't know the people you're talking about specifically, some Trump is the defender of white supremacy. And for some people, that means a lot. I mean, we've had that through the history of this nation, defenders of white supremacy, and he's going to keep things safe for them. They're not going to lose their power. Even though their lives might not be great within there, somehow they feel better about themselves. How do you counter that? This is an emotional, it's not a normal policy discussion. There's no policy. They'll tell you the border's open. And I have Trumpers say that. I go, you mean no one's working at the border? It's just wide open. They all went home for lunch for the whole day? And they get mad at me. I go, what do you mean the border's open? There are more arrests now than ever. Obviously, they're not open. And Biden's proposed $14 billion in more border protection. Republicans won't approve it because they don't want to give the guy a win. So we're living through times that we have a candidate on the other side that the love of him has nothing to do with policy. It's visceral. It's emotional. Maybe it's authoritarianism, the defense of white supremacy. For each person, it's different.